Distinguished senators, we have the nominee representing Ogun State, Mr. Olamilekan Adegbite. His CV has been distributed. Do we have the CV? Okay. So Mr. Adegbite, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you to the Senate chambers and to also request you to tell us anything that you need to highlight in your CV or out of it that you think is going to be helpful for the Senate to decide on the confirmation. Once again, you are welcome, and you can now address the Senate.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished senators, my name is Olamilekan Adegbite. I was born and raised in Ibadan. I was privileged to attend the famous Government College Ibadan, where characters are molded. The motto of the school is very hard today. It says, learning to serve. After leaving Government College Ibadan, I wanted to study architecture. And at that time, you needed to have your A-levels before you could go to the university. So I went to the then Ogun State Polytechnic in Abeokuta for my A-levels. That was from 1971 to 1981. Then we had a two-tier examination, the Cambridge examination and the WAEC examination. I came out of Ogun State Polytechnic and went to the University of Lagos School of Architecture. I was fortunate early as a student to be involved in practical work, even within the university. There was a very popular photographic studio at the university then. I'm not sure whether it's still there. It's called Studio The Best. I struck a friendship with a man that owned the place. So when it came to time to build a new studio within the university premises, particularly in front of Mariri Hall, it chose me to design and build, and I think I was in second year architecture then. It was a good way to hone my skill, and I did it successfully. So he commissioned a second one at the medical campus of UNILAG, which is in Diaba. I also designed and built that as well. This is how I started the foray from architecture into construction. I was also opportuned to work as a student with a firm, and I was saddled with responsibility of some buildings. Upon graduation from the university, I served with that one of the top architectural firms in Nigeria as of that time. Unfortunately, the proprietor is late, Chief Lai Balogun, blessed memory, at Modular Group. Modular Group gave me an exceptional opportunity, even for somebody as young as myself in the profession. This was so because the principal at that time was involved in politics. That was the politics of SDP and NRC. So I was opportuned to take senior positions early and to take decisions. One of the landmark projects that I worked on standing on the shoulder of people who had come to Modular before me, was the Union Bank headquarters in Marina. And at that time, it was a thing of pride. It was the tallest building in Nigeria in concept. 30-story Union Bank buildings in Marina with 3 basement floors. And it's on record that the principal trusted me enough to append my signature along with his own in the post-contract agreement that was signed with the bank. These among many other projects that I handled at Modular Group. In 1992, having become a professional architect, I've obtained my license from ACON, that's the Architect Association Council of Nigeria. I decided to venture into my own practice. And this I started May 2nd, 1992. I must say this, because the company was so good to me, Modular Group, instead of the traditional 1-month notice that was required of me, I gave a 3-month notice, which was in January, so I left in May. I started practice in 92, and like any young practice, it was a bit rough. I would travel the length and breadth of this country looking for work. But thank God, along the line, I started working for the oil industry, particularly the National Oil, as it was called then. I did a lot of jobs for them, civil works, building works, and all that. This, of course, contributed to owning my skills. Furthermore, I started working for the banking industry as well. And these took me across parts of the country. I could recall particularly, I went to do a job at Bonny Island. Bonny Island, of course, is only accessible by boat. And the logistics, as challenging as it was also very educative. And of course, got me to know other parts of Nigeria. But I must say this, that everything I'd done in the private sector up until 2011 was just preparatory to serving in public office. In 2011, I was privileged to be invited to come and serve the people of Ogun State as Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure. And this opened a new vista in experience, interpersonal relationship, dealing with the public, which is all different gamuts coming from the private sector. The governor had a vision which was primarily anchored on infrastructure. And thank God we were able, in 8 years, we were able to deliver on the governor's vision, spearheaded by the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. What this brought about and taught us is the fact that infrastructure is a panacea to most of the problems that we have in the society. One thing I realized, construction work, whether civil or building, is a large employer of labor, skilled and unskilled. At a point in time, on different sites within Ogun State, we gave employment to over 30,000 people that were earning their daily living from our project sites. I'm talking just about infrastructure projects, not talk of other things. Also, this made us to realize the fact civil infrastructure, power infrastructure, The infrastructure played a lot of role in other sectors. The infrastructure, of course, deepened our IGR base, helped the health infrastructure as well, helped in education and so many things. But most importantly, it was a poverty alleviation mechanism, because a lot of people got employed and made their living. I may have to stop short there. I'll take questions that I may be able to explain further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting chair, my distinguished colleagues. Congratulations, nominee.
Thank you, sir.
As we say in Nigeria, policies, competent persons, it's not our problem. It is implementation that is always the issue. Now, I'll go further to say that implementation is always an issue because of two key reasons. One, corruption. Two, lack of proper monitoring and evaluation of both the programs, the projects, and indeed the staff, and in fact, even the ministers themselves. So, for corruption, you all know it's a normal cliche, we all talk about it. But I ask you, as you are aware, I believe you drive a car. The major tool for a driver in a car is the dashboard that is easily available for you to see, so that you can monitor your fuel level, your speed, and so on. What is your strategic plan if you are confirmed to ensure that you have a dashboard? Because as you sit in your office, a lot will be happening down, in your ministry, down into the last point. And we'll sit here and appropriate billions of Nigerian people's money. How are you going to make sure that the Nigerian people's money works for them, it gets to the right place at every time? Thank you.
Senator Odia Mashiki.
Chairman, my very distinguished colleagues, Okwashiki Bode is my name, representing Nasarawa North Central District. It's a nominee as an experienced architect with wide experience spanning over 30 years in private sector. I want to believe you will agree with me with the participation of private investment is key to the development of public infrastructure in Nigeria. Now, a nominee, if eventually cleared and sworn in as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what do you think, or which ways, ideas do you intend to help government, or government need to do more in harnessing the private sector resources to contribute much to the national development of this country? Thank you.
Nominee, at this very crucial time of our nation's economic development, Nigerians are looking for ministers who can think outside the box and who can make a difference, visible difference. We are used to ministers complaining of funding, and so every minister on quotes is one that depends with cup in hand begging for budgetary allocation. There has been so much hue and cry since the creation of this nation for infrastructural development. My question to you, nominee. Would you say that Nigeria infrastructure development is okay at this moment? And if it's not, in the negative, what is responsible? And what difference will you make from past ministers who handled issues of infrastructure development if you become a minister, in making sure that Nigeria will sing a new song in the case of infrastructure development? That's my number one question. Once you are appointed a minister, you have assumed the responsibility of a leader. Leadership counts. I want you in simple sentence. Can you tell this red chamber what do you think is the problem of Nigeria? Mr. Senate President, Mr. Senate President, I want to request of you, Mr. Senate President, that any nominee that walks in here, the first question you should ask, not us, is that what can you do with your ministry to guarantee happiness to the people of Nigeria?
Chairman Committee on Happiness. You have given him the answer. That's the expo now. Which one?
Senator Kabir Barkia.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Engineer Kabir Barkia, presenting Kaduna Central. Mr. Nominee, you are an architect and also a former commissioner, works and infrastructure. So my question just goes to, of recent, we are having serious problems of building capacity in almost all parts of this country. So when you finally succeeded and become a minister, how are you going to tackle this menace we are experiencing? Thank you very much.
You can respond to the questions, please.
Thanks. I can answer the question also. Thank you, sir. I think the first question is very straightforward. That is ensuring that Nigerian people's money work for them. The problem in Nigeria has never been lack of laws or policies or guidelines. It's actually sticking to them. There are laid down principles for procurement. And when this is followed and done transparently, you can get the best value for the money that is spent. This is the best way to ensure that whatever the money is meant for is achieved. And I think that's the best way to make sure that Nigerians get the benefit of the money for the project that is meant for. The next question is getting the private sector involved. I must say this, that for private sector to work in Nigeria, especially with the public office, we need to build confidence. Without apportioning blame, there have been some recent incidences that eroded confidence of the private sector, where there's lack of carryover or continuity from one administration to the other. Government enters into partnership with someone, and maybe the administration goes, another comes in, and that agreement is not properly honored. Of course, this makes investors to be wary. So it's very important for government to honor its obligations, because there's a lot of money in the private sector. Especially there's a lot of money outside the banking sector, in the informal sector, which of course CBN acknowledges. We can harness this if you can get the confidence of our people and they know that they will make their money back. We've done it successfully in Ogun State, and I think we can replicate it at the federal level. The next question is similar to that. Say whether the policy is working or not. I must say that things are getting better. projects that are being done before are being continued rather than being abandoned. There's no point saying that we must start new projects with every new administration when there are ones that are uncompleted by the former ones. If you have continuity, then it will augur well and better for the country. But most importantly, you ask what I would do if I had opportunity anywhere. One thing I've found that, as I say, it also leads to the lack of funding. Instead of spreading ourselves thin, you know, we have X amount and we want to spread it over 100 projects. Balancing the geopolitical situation in Nigeria, we can concentrate on a few things so that we balance it out, but at the same time, we embark on projects that we can finish within a fixed time. I could give an easy example. When I became commissioner in Ogun State in 2011, there was a project that was awarded by the federal government, the road from Ibadan to Abeokuta via Akpata, Odeda. The project was awarded in 2010. As we speak, that project is yet to take off the ground. It's funding problem. But the contract subsists in the ministry. That means the contract is still on. So rather than spread ourselves thin, if you could pick projects strategically to balance the geopolitical equation and say, look, within 4 years, we can finish this, we can finish this, those are laudable achievements instead of spreading ourselves thin. I think that's the way out, and we'll get value for our money that way. Well, leadership. Leadership is not so much a problem in this country. Everybody is a leader in his own right, whether in our homes, on the streets. And what we need to ask ourselves, am I doing it right, even when other people are not there? The spirit of shortcut, we need to eschew it, take it out of our national life. If people are not looking, or because I'm privileged, rather than go and make a U-turn 300 meters down the line, I want to quickly turn left and join the other lane. These are things that we need to. So it's not so much leadership in one place. It's the leaders in all of us. Where we find ourselves, are we doing it right? Even when people are not seeing us. And I think that's what leadership is all about. And lastly, I think the question is about building collapse in Nigeria. It's symptomatic of the society, building collapse. You will find out in most cases, the buildings that collapse all over this country do not have involvement of professionals. I would say out of, I don't know, people cutting corners. Oftentimes, people will come to you, make a design for me, you do the design, you do the stuff. They want to use the professional so they get the approvals. Thereafter, they abandon the professional to go and do the projects on their own. And where concrete is the easiest to abuse because it's plastic. It's not something that you load today and it damages today. It flows. So the deformation is slow. At times it takes years. So when you do a defective project, say, that one we didn't use any professional and it's staying. It encourages and reinforces such people to go and do another one. Of course, when you reach a critical point, the building will collapse. So that is the problem. We need to go back, and I think the professional bodies are working on this. I know of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. They're working with all other bodies, the engineers, the builders, to form a code such that even during construction, the states, the planning regulators will go around and ensure that the professionals that signed the drawings, that got the approval, are involved. If they are not, such projects should be altered automatically. If we do this, it will reduce the effects of building collapses in Nigeria. Thank you.
Senators Theodore Oji, Lawrence Rujagpo, and Senator Ama Michael Naji. In that order, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Fiye Oji Ochendo. I represent Abia Central. Mr. Potential Minister, you are welcome.
my question is this. If you go into the Executive Council and the President, and this question is without prejudice, we are deployment of posting, and the President gives every minister a task, and that task is to suggest one way that these are our girls, the Chibok girls, that are still held hostage, can be brought back. What will be your own suggestion? Number two, see, the problem we are having with the executive at times in terms of budget, which is our main function, is late submission of proposals from ministries. They are posted to a ministry and you have that problem. What will be your solution? Thank you.
Mr. President of the Senate, sitting as chair, I am Lawrence Ebujapo, representing the productive people of Bayelsa West Central District. I want to join my colleagues to congratulate you on your nomination. Fortunately, we share some commonalities. I am also just the immediate past Commissioner for Works, Bayelsa State and Infrastructure. So,
thank you.
Unfortunately, I may not have had the opportunity of crossing ourselves because most of the times I don't attend the National Council on Works for obvious reasons. Because I believe that some of these things need to be left with the state to do. And I don't think that there's need for us to have that kind of conference. But anyway, but that's not the subject matter for here now. Now, the question is, we have housing deficit in this country. If you are confirmed as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what will you do differently to ensure that we bridge this gap of housing deficit? I'm aware that we had the Shagari housing scheme in those days, and some of those buildings are still within Port Harcourt, which was our former state where we came out from, Bayelsa State. What will you do to ensure that the issue of housing deficit, because the problem of housing is not just a matter of, we must not look for the 3-bedroom flats, the duplexes for people to stay in. So what will you do to ensure that we reduce this issue of housing deficit in this country? My second question is general. We have just been told that the federal government has banned the eating of leather or more. I will have asked the Minister of Science and Tech, but you are also a minister, and you have been assigned to any portfolio because you have the competencies of being assigned. What do you think we need to do to take forward this policy so that the derivatives we need to derive economically and otherwise from the ban on eating of pomo, because those who eat the pomo derive benefits, but now want to deprive them of that benefit. How do we translate this benefit to economic benefit to the country? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Michael Nachi.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. My distinguished architect, when I see fellow professionals in the building industry, I'm always happy. I've looked at your CV and your attached documents, but it does appear, I don't know if it is right for me to say it is an oversight that since you registered with AFCON in 1998 and the Institute of Architects in 1992, I have not seen your practice license, and you've been handling the big jobs. Of course, you know we frown at that. Secondly, assuming tomorrow you are assigned to Ministry of Works, and let me borrow Professor Jerry Ghana's speech. If you're architect, you architect well. If you're engineer, you engineer well. If you're a quantity surveyor, quantify well. Now, in the Ministry of Works, they say,
which you know. Let us not hide the fact that based on what I've said, corruption is deep there because those who don't know anything anyway claims to know it, and government is wasting a lot of billions due to that aspect of it, which of course you know where I'm going. Now, how do you intend to help this government that is preaching of corruption every day to overcome this professional corruption? Because some particular profession in Ministry of Works claims that they are there. Whereas you know, a business administrator spends the money. He still hires accountant to audit his spending. But in our own construction industry, it is not there. So how do you intend to put correction or put end to these things we have been battling? Thank you.
You can respond to the questions.
The first question this round is on Chibok girls. I must first admit my lack of competence in such matters. But from a layman's point of view, I think technology is so advanced that could help us, because even on Google Maps, there's something you call street level mapping. You could stay in your room and be looking at the streets of America or UK or anywhere in Europe. I know there's some military technology that has been deployed in warfare, maybe by people who are more advanced than us. If we could seek their help, we could begin to locate where these people are without jeopardizing lives. We could now evolve a strategy. The first thing is to locate where they are. Then we could evolve a strategy on how to release these people. It could be carrot and stick, some incentives. I don't think I can go further than that. The military experts will know. Late proposal of budgets. I can't say much about what has been happening, but I say that from my experience in 8 years working in Ogun State. In fact, for our budget, we have a particular date. It's second Tuesday in November. Whatever date it is, you must present budget to the House. And we were able to do this for 8 years. Second Tuesday in November, the budget is presented. And before the year ends, oftentimes, the governor will sign the budget on 31st of December. But it gives the legislative arm about 7 to 8 weeks to consider the budget. We could have something like this in place at the federal level, so that Mr. President picks a particular date and everybody works towards that. Like, look, I'm going to present my budget every year, first Tuesday in November every year, second Tuesday. Everybody works towards that. So, because it's the same amount of work that you do when you start and finish, that's also you're going to do. So if you know you're working towards a particular date, everything will have happened before that November date. We did it successfully in Ogun State for 8 years, and I think it's something that can be borrowed at the federal level. Housing deficit and bridging the gap. You see, housing itself is a social problem. And that's the first thing that we need to get right in this country. Sorry to say, maybe there are about over 100 senators there. The desire for everybody will be different. That's why everybody talks to the architect. What we tend to do when we are doing mass housing is to do one size fits all. And that's why it has not worked. Just like the distinguished senator said, there are some houses that we inherited as administration. Despite the deficit, people don't have, it's not, they are abandoned. Nobody wants to live there. Because people were not consulted before the houses were built. Location, type of houses, and all that. So what I was taught in the university for housing, before you even embark on any housing at all, you must have something like a questionnaire to the intended target. So it has to be localized. If I'm going to build houses maybe in Lagos, I'll design my questionnaire for the people around there. If I'm going to build in my village, maybe somewhere like that, I'm going to design the questionnaire for those people. You need to know what people want and how they want it. This is the only way to solve the housing problem, rather than build one size fits all that nobody wants to occupy. You say ban on pomo and leather products. I think it's a good thing to ban pomo because we import a lot of leather products in Nigeria, which, with the amount of cattle that we consume on a daily basis all over the nation, there's plenty of leather products that can come out of that. And practice the same make perfect. If you start the leather works, so it has to be incentives. The tendency is that because the pomo is cheaper, it's for the lower class people. So maybe some incentives, something to take them off pomo, maybe provide cheaper fish or something, so that the hides of the cattle could be harvested from the abattoir and turned to leather. My professional colleagues, you mentioned practice license. Of course, I will serve on the board of ACON for 3 years. So I do have a practice license. I don't think it was important to put there, but I've been practicing since 1992, and I do have a practice license. Thank you. Corruption. I cannot say that because that's a pointed accusation at the ministry and the people there. What I can say is that because you mentioned administrator, accountant, and all that, there's peculiarity, especially in the civil construction industry.
Mr. President, we have 5 more minutes, please.
Okay, sorry.
5 more minutes.
I'm trying to answer the question, sir. Well, when you want to do bill of quantities for road, for instance, you can't give it to a quantity surveyor. It's called BEME, Bill of Engineering, Measurement, and Evaluation. It has to be done by engineers. Maybe that is why you think that means it's a bit opaque. You know, there are some peculiarities with it. I can't talk further about it because I don't know when you say they're corrupt. Thank you.
Is that the general view? Okay. Distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that he takes a bow and go? Those in favor that he takes a bow and go say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.